Okay, so today we're going to talk about Joel Sternfeld's On This Site. So for this book, Joel Sternfeld visited 50 different sites across the U.S. between 1993 and 1996. And it was originally published in 1996, but this is a much more recent version that was published by Stitel that came out in 2012. So I find this book interesting because this book goes to different sites across the U.S. that had some serious or that had some significant tragedy occur. So what's really fascinating about this book is that the images are all landscapes, but they're these very ordinary, everyday landscapes. And if you just looked at them by themselves, you would certainly have one response to the images. But each and every one of these images has some text that accompanies them, and this text provides a story to go with it or some context to help you understand why that site has been photographed, what the tragedy that occurred there was. And I think this is really interesting because often within photography and photo books and photo projects, there's this self-imposed constraint that is placed that says, oh, you shouldn't have a bunch of text that explains the image. And if you have to have that, then maybe the image isn't really doing what it's supposed to. This kind of approaches it a bit differently because it really starts to talk to the fact that sometimes you just can't really understand a place by first appearance, by just looking at it. And I find that really interesting. You know, you look at some of these, again, ordinary images, but the composition's so nice and the light is so warm and welcoming that you kind of have this one feeling. And then you read that text that goes with the image and you start to have this understanding of the tragedy that occurred there. And as you look at that image again, your emotional response is very different. At least for me, it's very different. And you really start to notice other things, different things in the image. And so I think that's really interesting. And it really is a fantastic book. So I'll put a link down below to Amazon, and it's worth checking out. So I really did enjoy this book. And on this site, it really kind of stretched my mind a bit to really think more about the ability to use text as a tool within a project or a body of work to really help add another layer of complexity to it or another layer of interest. Do I think text should be used extensively with all photo projects, all photo books? No, I don't. For this particular one, I think the project really wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be something special without it, though. And so the recognition of that, the understanding of that, and the willingness to kind of embrace that as a tool to accompany these incredible images, that's what really makes this book, that's what makes it so special and so interesting. So I'm going to flip through it now. It's these everyday images that we've all seen something similar to before. We've all seen images like this of Mount Rushmore, and we've seen these type of images taken from Central Park many times before, but it's the text that gives the story that goes with it. This is a good example of an image of a chair where Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested. Martin Luther King was assassinated at that hotel. We see other images that are maybe lesser known. As I went through this, I actually didn't know about many of the incidents that occurred in the past and were documented in these pictures. And I think that's what's kind of interesting about it. It's a book of images that really encourage you to learn a bit more, even about the country or the area from which you come from. And And there's so much tragedy, and that's something that is also present in these images. But what I don't know is if you just looked at the image itself without the text, I don't think you would have that sense of tragedy, that sense of remorse. I think that image of a baseball field is a good example. Several images of just these things that years later have been even turned into documentaries or TV specials. What I also find interesting as you go through this is many of the images do have this kind of cold, feeling to them. And I think that fits well with the subject of the book. But then there are these others that have this really nice, warm, welcoming, comforting light. And so it's a bit of a contrast and conflict between the subject and the images. But I guess that's what really makes it interesting. So I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if there's other books you think I should talk about. All right, thanks guys. Peace.